the mass exodus of professionals leaving the country and how this affects our economy in Nigeria. So every nation is desirous of attracting foreign investors to grow its economy. So in the second half of 2023, about 5 multinational companies announced plans to exit Nigeria, a situation that could reduce foreign investment inflows and thereby affecting the country's $1 trillion economic target by 2030. So the exit of these companies is coming at a time when foreign investment inflows in Africa's biggest economy are their lowest in 27 months. And available data from the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, indicates that investment declined by 33% to $1.03 billion in the second quarter of 2023 from $1.54 billion recorded in the same period in 2022. The effect of the exit of multinational companies on Nigeria's economy is the focus of our discussion on Daybreak this morning. And to discuss this, we have joining us in the studio very soon. We'll actually have a guest joining us in this day, but let's just skip the name for now. But Yusha'u Aliyu is an economist from Lagos, and he's already he has joined virtually. And we also have Ibrahim Shelling. Shelling is a business development and wealth management expert. Gentlemen, good morning, and thank you for joining us on Daybreak this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right. It's a pleasure to have you once again. Now, taking a look at this, you know that, different experts, economic experts, business development experts have talked about how a brain drain has affected the economy. And they're trying to, establish the fact that the brain drain or the professionals leaving the country could be attributed to the deep in services that we have in different sectors. I'd like to have your perspective on that before we start the conversation this morning.
Okay, it goes without saying that the economy is built on essentially your professional cadre, so your middle class, so to speak. They tend to be the most stable. They pay the majority of the taxes. They provide the majority of the services within the economy. So if you have, mass exodus of these level of people, it's detrimental to development in the economy. We're talking about doctors, engineers, our ICT experts, financial services pros. These are vital industries that drive any economy. And if you think the best of the best in your country, it's certainly worrisome for a developed country.
All right. Taking a deep dive into what appears to be a quagmire for our economy. On the one hand, you recall the president only a couple of days ago, pleading with foreign investors not to leave. And in most of his foreign trips in the last 6 months, thereabout, he's done more of trying to win people into the economy. But what has happened instead is that we have seen more and more people indicate interest to leave. As you have listened to our opening remarks, in the last 8 months alone, there are about 5 of them that have served notice either to the Nigerian Stock Exchange or to the general public of their intentions to leave. One of such was GSK. It has served notice since 19, when it started the process of delisting from the Nigerian Stock Exchange. We kept watching as though they were just playing a bait, and then they went on and on systemically until they eventually left. And today, we are living with the consequences. Drugs that we used to buy at around 3,500, 4,500 today go for a whopping 48,000 because we now have to import them, and they have to go through the vagaries of foreign exchange sourcing, clearance, and all of that. How deep in a mess, are we, given our current situation?
Yeah, look, it's vital for people to understand that this mess that we're in was not just created within the last 2 years, 5. It's systematic. It's in decades and decades of mismanagement and not really having a vision for where we wanted to be economy. What we're, as I said, FX instability. So you can imagine a company that comes into Nigeria perhaps with $100 million. Let's even take convert that at official rates would have been, roughly about 15 billion naira. Now, upon exit, you're looking actually, 1,000 naira to exit position. So you cannot. I mean, look, money is a very rational, and you cannot beg people to stay. People are going to take a rational decision. What we need to do is look inwards and out the mess that has been created. We need to get the structures in place. We need to get our legal systems, our economics in place. Because without getting all those fundamentals, attracting foreigners that are very particular, having processes and transparency and corporate governance practices. Without all those concerns, it's going to be very to attract foreign investors. Why would I, bring in my money to Nigeria if I can go to a nearby country that has a stable situation? And that is the conversation we need to have. We need to be very on ourselves and look inward, look at where we need to address the potential bottlenecks that limit our potential for growth.
From what you have observed on the scene, besides some of the assurances that have been offered by the president on some of his foreign trips, or when he had the opportunity to receive delegations from multinational companies, does this suggest that we really understand what we need to do? You've talked about this problem being decades of decay. Do we seem to understand what we really need to do to get back on track? When you look at, for instance, the ease of doing business, we have practically made that a theme from the last administration to the current one. But on ground, do we really understand what we need to do with regards to ease of doing business to ensure that we do not only attract but retain some of these multinationals?
Yeah, look, I think we have some of the brightest minds in this, even at the leadership level. So their understanding, I think it's the implementation of of these and policies that that we're having challenges, and this will take time. You have potentially within the system that may not necessarily understand the big picture, and they're quite limited in their scope. So they're willing to sabotage process and systems for short-term gains, but don't necessarily see the big picture. And it's important that leader is able to sell that vision across down the stream, so to speak, so that people understand the big picture. And it's important that leadership also provides an example. You expect your subordinates to do something and you're not showing the lead or taking the lead in it, then it's very difficult for that to take place. So there are systematic issues that will take time, but we cannot expect it to happen overnight.
Okay, we've been talking about these not happening overnight for decades, and let's say from where we transition into the democratic government. And to have this in motion, it's a collective responsibility, if you ask me. Do you think that in the states, now let's move away from the federal government. I know that this rests on the hours of the federal government more than the states, but do you think that the state government are actually doing well or understand the problem to actually move Nigeria from this brain drain that we're experiencing to the next level? And if you think they're not doing well, what can we start doing from the grassroots level to actually change the narrative?
Fantastic question, and thank you for this. Hope I'm not being too controversial by saying that I don't think the states are pulling their weight. Well, not all, But in general, states pulling their weight in driving the economy. Yes, the federal has the overarching issues when it comes to the macroeconomics. However, the states simply do not do enough, in my opinion. And why? They're able to come to the center every month, their FAC allowances, and they don't necessarily get for the economic situation. Everybody refers to the presidency, and they don't go back to their governors or the state. So I think that needs, and for that to change, really, we have to go back to what we keep saying, which is restructure argument that's been going on for. There needs to be incentives for to produce in order to drive development. But if they're able to come to the center every month and their FAC allowances and go back to the state and come in next month, there's really an incentive. Some of that could be considered are incentive-based, for collective allowances. For instance, I'm single state in Nigeria has there are potential resources that they could extract. We have multitudes of natural resources that are currently potentially illegally, right? Without the country benefiting from it. We need incentives. For instance, if the global demand for gypsum is one metric ton, right? For example, why are we not saying to the states that these massive deposits to harness these resources, bring it to the center, then the center is able to compensate FAC payments. But if the state every month and just gets these derivations without producing, certainly there's not going to be an incentive for development.
All right. We now have joining us in the studio Ibrahim Aliyu, who is an economist. Yusha'u Aliyu, who is an economist. I'm correct. That's right. Welcome on board.
Thank you.
We have had to start with Ibrahim. Looking at what the situation has become. Every day we seem to, while junketing around the world, trying to get multinationals to come to this country, we found it completely difficult to retain the ones that had come before, who continue to serve us notice upon notice every other day of their intentions to leave the country, and some of them have made through some of this notice and have actually left. Shelling has been able to talk us through how this is not a recent phenomenon. I mean, the development that had led to these people leaving has been piling up, for some time. And it appears we were paying lip service to what we needed to do until reality is now beginning to strike. And so my question to you, as we welcome you on board, of course, is do the various level of government, especially the states, understand what they need to do, in the real sense of it, to retain some of these? Because at the end of the day, these companies are located in states. They are more part of the state than they are. You can count your fingers of how many companies are there in the Federal Capital Territory, by the way. They pay taxes to the states. They employ people from the states. The people who work there spend their income on the state. So essentially, they are even more beneficial to the states than they are, first of all, than they are to the country as a whole. Do these states understand the importance of retaining these companies? And do you see them playing the kind of roles that would ensure that these companies will feel welcome, feel comfortable with all of the kind of things we hear from states, from double taxations to practically harassing the few companies that seem to be located in the states?
Ironically, instead of we serving them quit notice or them serving us quit notice, like you pointed out, it's a long trend which is adverse to the Nigerian economy. In fact, it is we that are giving them the opportunity. We are not giving them the opportunity to stay. Nigerian economy is one of the best economies investors can thrive, because right from even before independence, the Royal Niger companies saw advantage in coming to this economy and because of its potentials. However, our unfriendly policies is what is driving them away. But I don't share the idea that states are pushing that. It is the policy, industrial policy of the nation, because no matter what, if you check the activities of multinationals, they are coming where there is potential, and when they are coming to tap the potentials and enjoy the benefit of whatever that is existing, you realize that they are not just coming to make a loss in the business. Adam Smith pointed out severally that it is not out of a benevolence of a baker that he makes bread. It is that desire of margin of profit. That's why he's making bread. So once multinationals is a combination of factors, of a friendly economic environment, friendly policies, friendly market, and at the same time desire of the investors to sustain. If there is any environment that is more friendly than Nigeria, we have seen how airline industries were moving out to a neighboring country in West Africa, probably Ghana. We did not take action. Just jet fuels is the cause of that. Second is the forex. So when you have not addressed this, you cannot accuse state governors of being. Multinationals are ready, so far as they will make enough profit and repatriate the profit, they will be ready to discharge responsibility. Bigger multinational, Glaxo, for instance, SmithKline, for instance.
Okay, it's almost like a song now for different administration talking about ease of doing business. And you know that this is a long age problems that we're facing in the country, you know, multinationals live in the country and all of that. Give us a sense of your own assessment of, you know, ease of doing business in the country that will make some of these multinationals not service notice and even stay at the end of the day.
You see, it's not a rocket science to define ease of doing business. When you just go to business ranking around the globe, the ease of doing business ranking, state by state, you realize that ease of doing business in Nigeria is not friendly, and that is why I dissociate from embarking an idea it is the state.
So do you think that there should be some sort of unification?
No, it's not unification in a real sense, but making certain adjustment. You have to make adjustment. If they are moving, nobody is sympathizing that they are moving, nobody is calling for a meeting. The Ministry of Trade and Industry that's supposed to have you know there are people with responsibility to keep this thing coming, and there are people with responsibility to keep them moving within the economy. Sit with them, discuss with them, show the potentials. What are you doing? If you cannot every year we project our commitment, fiscal commitment, but we are not looking at the commitment of keeping businesses within the economy. There should be roundtable conference. Please come, let us discuss. What are you facing? What are your recommendations? You make the recommendation. They should be up and doing proactive measures. You cannot just sit and look at an economy where you have potential multinationals investing and others are also waiting for their success to bring them here, and we allow this to be coming up and doing most of the time. Remember that we should just agree that Nigerian business environment is a good one. But what are the policies to keep? You know, even there are investment seekers around the globe. You are not the only one. So if there are a lot of investor seekers and they are giving the favorable environment and looking at the statistics, looking at the index of ease of doing business, and they are now complying, no investor that is making profit that will run away.
All right. Before I bring in Mr. Ibrahim again, when you say Nigerian economy is favorable to business. What indices exactly are you looking at? Is it just on the strength of our population?
No.
With a very poor purchasing power?
No.
What are those indices that you think naturally makes the Nigerian market that would make the Nigerian market the darling of multinationals? And if that is, then what exactly are the problems that are making these ones live in spite of, because we see our leaders often repeat the statements that we have the population, we have the market, you come here, you triple your profit. Why in the face of this seeming reality, people are still living the economy?
That's why I say investor seekers, or those nations that are seeking investors to come. You put on ground the potentials you have. Glaxo, SmithKline, they want to produce medicine. You have the market. Nobody can tell you that. But what are the input? What are the variable costs in production? And what is the profit? Like I told you, the profit margin determines no matter the potential. Now, everybody knows that if you produce bread, definitely you are going to have market. But the purchasing power is low. It's a factor, rightly pointed out. But the main issue that is killing most of these things is that we don't have priority of creating favorable conditions for them, and we allow import of lower cost product to take away their production, and that they have to move to that level. The cost of energy, for instance, you cannot shy away from the fact that an iron company that relies on supplies from Shiroro or from some of these giants to have its own electricity will resort to going to power solar grid. This solar grid is costly. If you don't have power, definitely where there is power, then it's a reduction in the cost of production, and that is an addition to the profit. These are some of the things on ground, factors militating a costing of a product. Nigeria is a very large population. The Chinese uses dumping policy where they subsidize product and they bring in all the product. Look at the studio as a micro study. What do you think out of all these cameras and electrical gadgets that is produced within Abuja or within Nigeria? It's all imported. So if you have, and it is imported at lower cost, because the policies of those nations is dumping. But in a situation where you cannot control your monetary policy, the exchange rate is high, of course investors will be attracted to come and invest, but what is going to be the cost of your export? You are not exposed, and you cannot export, and at the same time the purchasing power of individual within that same economy cannot contain the price tag of any production allowed. Look at the air industry, for instance. Air industry, how many Nigerians can pay 200,000 per ticket Abuja Lagos? So even if you are, because of cost of input, but if it is 25, 30,000, they will make more profit. So the ease of doing business has to do with the cost of materials that is required for any company to operate in this economy.
All right.
Let's join Mr. Shelling, that is still virtual in Lagos. Now, we've listened to Malam Yusha'u speak, telling us some of the problems and quite some number of solutions this morning. And one thing he said that kind of, raised my curiosity was the fact that constituting some sort of committee to bring about reports that can change the narrative. Now, give us a sense of how some of the committee that we've constituted before, I know there's a lot of reports from, committees regarding our economy. How well have we utilized this report, and how has this setting up of committee every time a problem arises helped in, reshaping our economy for good?
Yeah, look, I think one of the good things we do in this country is meetings, committees, boards, whatever it is. What we really need is decisive action. Bringing a committee together, it's an expensive venture in Nigeria, because you have cater for the big people or what's they're going to be part of that board. So yes, whilst there needs to be active, I think what we need to now decide what is the implementation plan in all things that we're trying to discuss or put together. What the studio said is Nigeria's environment might have the best, it might have the potential, but the volatility in the Nigerian economy is just massive. So if a foreign investor is looking at sub-Saharan investments, and the analysis on different countries at sub-Saharan region, you find there's a potential upside in Nigeria to decent returns, but there's also a downside if things don't if policies are not favorable or if the economy is not favorable. So until we get to where we are, we have found some level of consistency in our economy, found some level of stability in our economy. This not just comes from economic, it also comes from political aspects as well. So all these factors contribute to an investment decision. So yes, we might have a potential market of many trillions of this. But if an investor can enter the market, reduce and exit and make a profit, they'll certainly look elsewhere. We saw it during COVID. We've seen during this Russian Ukraine crisis. Flight will always go to safety, no matter how fantastic side is. If the risks outweigh the best, you'll always get capital flight. So we'll move to safer climes. We're seeing interest rates increase in the likes of the US. So what happens is these investors will move on to safer climes until there's a stability.
All right.
Yeah. So going to sorry, I deviated a little bit. Some of the T's and confab, whatever it is.
Nigerians who think that the exit of some of these multinationals also provide the opportunity for Nigerians to also feel some of this vacuum. Basically such that we will now have companies that are indigenous to us, and the conversation around exit, maybe we hope usually when we attract investments, we attract patient capitals that come, stays, produce, and over time, grow. So there are those economies that also feel that there isn't really anything to cry about, that we should now have Nigeria step up now that they have identified that this is a vacuum that has been created by this exit, fill the exit. But while that argument continues to rage, the same conditionalities, that prevented the multinationals from thriving, you still militate against Nigeria-owned companies. We hear Nigerian entrepreneurs, complain every day about multiplicity of taxes, of government interference, or government policies that seem to put them on the edge, as we recently saw with the reversal of the 43 item that were initially placed on a prohibition list for access to forests in the official market. What's your sense of some of these arguments?
You see, all economies around the globe involved in protectionism. The first thing is to protect local industry. If you are protecting local industry, there are inputs that you must make to make sure that they are producing. This is to leverage the cost of production. It is not leverage. So what we mean by Nigeria has the potential, in all economic sense, if you are to produce aggregate output, you are looking for market. After producing it locally, you are also looking market beyond the borders. But what is militating is costing, the cost of inputs. So no matter what, I don't share that view. Multinationals are very necessary in our economy because of the role they played and because of the economic of scale. And not only that, because of leveraging prices. and experience. Nigeria can engage with different multinationals to transfer technology. Transferring technology does not mean that when they come and they now go abruptly, that is without any plan for anything on ground. You cannot plan. These people come with the best fund. Our banking sector cannot provide 20 billion naira for a refinery. No bank in Nigeria can provide $20 billion for a refinery to be for an investor to access. So, but if multinationals are coming, they are coming with experience, they are coming with funds, they are coming with expertise, and they are coming also to transfer certain knowledge to our domestic human capital. So, in my own opinion, of course, it is true that it is good for us to have local industries growing, but at the same time also we need to sustain the multinationals with good policies that can maintain them in production on production line. It is true that if probably you take a look at 10 years period and you now imagine 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they are capital flight. What brought about capital flight if they are not necessary in our economy? What brought about, for instance, you check the air industry moving, you are losing employment in the first instance because no chain of transport that doesn't have value chain, no chain of production that doesn't have value chain. So all this value chain is what is reducing unemployment in an economy. So therefore, now it is a call for concern. There is no way you can achieve any policy without sitting on table and understand and bring weights. Let me give you the Aramco experience in Saudi Arabia, biggest oil production refinery, but they are employing different individuals, different professionals from around the globe for them to establish the biggest refinery. So if we can have a medical laboratory that is multinational in nature, we have Nigerians. That is the difference between Nigerian economy and other economies, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. If you take up market, in the entire ECOWAS market, West Africa market, Nigeria constitutes 40% of the entire market. So these are the potential. Whatever you produce, you are going to market. And when you go to market, you are looking for profit. And when the size of the economy is $510 billion economy, it's not the same as an economy that is $210 billion economy. So, but it is disheartening to find a situation of this nature where policymakers, like rightly pointed out by Abdullahi, we need to have proactive policy decisions that can continue to sustain available production in the economy and increase, because without increasing, our GDP growth rate will still remain either unchanged or it will be reducing.
All right. Shelling, I'm sure you listened to him talk about what we need to do, with some of those who have even served us notice that they want to leave, rather than just sit and count our losses, how we can proactively engage with some of these persons and perhaps find a way to assuage their fears or put some kind of promise on the table that suggests that it is going to be a better journey going forward, rather than you leave and miss out on the potential opportunities to make it big. Is that window still available, especially for those who have served us notice who are leaving? I thought we missed out on the GSK because the notice had been there for 3 years and we did nothing until they left. And we can practically say that we are in a dire straits as far as medical consumables are concerned in Nigeria, with the way we have seen prices of basic medical drugs like antibiotics and anti-malarials skyrocket. Do we have that opportunity with others? Is there something we can do on the immediate to halt this hemorrhage and then begin to fix some of the things that have become a major concerns to these businesses?
Look, nothing is impossible. But again, as I've mentioned previously, is rational, and people are going to rational decisions. GSK has, from the UK, the board has probably taken this decision a long ago, and probably the delay in it has been due to facts such as I said, getting SEC approved, and being able to exit by getting foreign currency as well. So this process is probably at the latter stage. It's going to be very difficult for us to curtail. So we are looking forward. As the gentleman mentioned, we can't say, let these follow, these our indigenous company. No, that is, a very naive point to take. They do bring in expertise, bring in funding. He mentioned about, our inability to raise capital. So these foreign companies are able to bring in capital. We need them. We need them for employment. We need for skill acquisition. So for a number of things. The policy should be that perhaps give incentives to come in for a while, them to transfer their knowledge and skill and technical capability. Over a period, and we can now transition them out. So in terms of what we need to do, there need to be incentives for these companies. It's going to be tax breaks, whether it's going to be, some sort of ways, or there needs to be, incentives to allow these people in, coming in and creating, 10,000, for instance, and we're still demanding that they, pay the same number of taxes, or, we need to look at the upside, right? At the other side, for instance, if they're going to create 10,000 jobs, that's potentially 10,000 people that the unemployment market, pay taxes by a payee, and reducing some of the social that we face. So we need to just stop looking at the simple in terms of I know the government is looking for revenue, but we need to start looking a little bit more long term and solving some of the main problems that we face
holistically. Now, I remember that not too long ago, Mr. Oyerinde Smart, who is the Director General of NECA, did talk about, the high unemployment rate in the country. And we know that the consequences of some of these multinationals leaving the country will leave a whole chunk of unemployed youths and other people in the country, stranded. And we're looking at a way where these people will not come back for a pound of flesh in the society. Now, taking a look at this holistically, how can we stop this trend? How can we utilize some of the things, some of the people that we have that will be losing their job very soon, have lost their job because of this mass exodus of multinationals? And we know that, don't forget that, 8 out, let's say 10 out of the employed people we have, 8 probably have been employed by these multinationals or even private organizations. So how do we now capitalize on these weaknesses and actually, make something out of it, not forgetting some of our legislative bottlenecks, encapsulating some of these consequences?
You see, we should be aware that even these multinationals that they are living this the business environment, they are not living it with a good mind. Sorry, they are not living without pain. They are living with pain, because no investor will come and you make unfriendly decisions. These unfriendly decisions are on the table. We all know them. Dollar window, repatriation of capital, high cost of production. So these are issues that requires proactive measures. Proactive measures, like I rightly pointed out, Ministry of Trade and Investment. There are a lot of windows of investment. It's not just to look to wait for them to leave, like granted pointed out by Mr. Shelling. These people has given us a notice, because when they are coming, they came with a notice, and when they are to go, they have to go with notice. Unemployment. Look, one of the things that pains me more is that these multinationals also pay better wages. So it's not only losing the job, but losing a very good job that is keeping our economy. When the purchasing power of individuals is not encouraged, there is no way the GDP will be reflecting better figures. And that is why, in my own opinion, I think meetings are important. Updates are important. But the right people with the right thinking must be there, because we cannot continue to lose opportunities. This market that we are losing is a market where every home will pay a price for it, because there must be somebody that will be sick. And if you are spending only 2,000 naira per nature of sickness, now it's going to be multiplied. And if it is multiplied by every home, if you quantify the losses the economy is going to make, it's better to come and sit down and stop others from even joining the queue, because the better we have ease of doing business policies, the better for the economy and the better for the democracy. However, looking at the sub-Saharan Africa, looking at the Human Capital Development Index by the United Nations, Nigeria has changed. 33% of desired working population that are off record, doing nothing, is a heavy loss for us. Medical lines, we know the number of scholarship that government pays to educate experts in the medical system, but all of them are leaving the shores of Nigeria for greener pastures. Some of them even because as a result of no job. So this business environment, let us be proactive. If we are targeting in 6 years to have $1 trillion economy, it's not just to mention, Abacha mentioned Vision 2020, that he is going to achieve this and that. If you don't put measures on ground, the same situation will be repeating itself, and at the end of the day we have more unemployed. Remember the figures released by Bureau of Statistics. Over 100, as at January 2023, we are in December today, 133 million Nigerians have joined poverty line. These are some multidimensional poverty. Even those who are working, the salary is no longer important to keep the household.
That's right. Shelling, let us begin to drill down to what we need to start doing from today. It does appear, I mean, we have a new government, and it does appear that there is shown from the number of speeches he has made that there is a grave understanding, there is a deeper understanding of the mess that we are in and how fast we need to move. Only recently, former Emir of Kano and one-time Central Bank Governor Sanusi Lamido, Sanusi Mohammed II, as is now called, talked about the need for us to review our relationship with China, that we have basically dealt with them as a buying and selling nation. That it does appear that we can learn more about their model for industrialization than just junketing around the world in the name of looking for investors. That it does appear that if we are willing to take on a strategic relationship with China, then we can do more with reviving our cottage industries and most of those, and industries in the sectors where we have comparative advantage. What sense do you make, of some of these solutions as preferred by Sanusi Lamido?
Well, look, I think he's spot in terms of how we need to approach our development. We've essentially been, using a brigade approach, which let's look for short-term solutions to our long-term problems. However, right now, first of all, set a vision of what we want Nigeria. We out production for a long time, and we have seen the effects on our economy. So we need to be productive. Looking at the Chinese model, fantastic, but we can't obviously just replicate that model, exactly, because we have certain peculiarities that they not necessarily have. So we have Nigerian solutions to Nigerian problems. However, for instance, having the Chinese as partners would have its advantages. Yeah, so we need to leverage on those advantages. What do we need? We have infrastructure deficits in Nigeria that to be addressed, and the Chinese have been to show some level of competence in that field. So perhaps we could have bilateral agreements that allow us to allow them to build our infrastructure instead of perhaps cash repayment or whatever. They could also extract some research they are currently extracting. So we need to look at innovative solutions, and Emir is certainly in that aspect.
Thank you.
But we need right minds, and we need innovative solutions to look at to think at the box.
All right. I'd like your 2 cents on what he has just said.
I will just add to what Shelling says in respect to your question, or that we go for Chinese model. I think the best model we go for Nigeria is we take an example of the Asian tigers entirely. There are things you borrow from different economies. We put them based on Nigerian peculiarity. That will assist us. And on ease of doing business, we just have to address the issue of monetary policy. That is very necessary for us to keep our multinationals around.
All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate your contribution this morning. Mr. Yusha'u Aliyu is an economist and a public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for being on the show. We appreciate you. And Mr. Ibrahim Shelling, all the way from Lagos, thank you for your contribution this morning. We appreciate your contribution to the show.
Thank you for having me.